What's up guys, Canadian Guy here, and I am back with a super special video for all of you today. Today's guest is the voice of PlayStation's nostalgic past. He is a character that many of you know and love. In fact, if you're not careful, he may even steal your heart. Ladies and gentlemen, the voice of Sly Cooper, Kevin Miller. Thank you for coming today.
While you gave that introduction, I took their wallets, so thank you.
All social ID is out there.
Took the love, took the hearts, took the wallets. Sly.
Speaking of stealing, I would say that you definitely stole the role of Sly Cooper. So let's start all the way at the beginning. Let's go in the time machine as Sly did in 4 and go all the way to the start. How did you land the gig of Sly Cooper? Can you tell us the story of how that was or the process of it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny that you use the word stole. No one's used that before, but it might not be inaccurate. Deep fans of Sly know that there was another voice actor that was originally cast as Sly that was on the demo disc for Sly 1. Back before the internet, if you wanted to play a video game before it was released, you had to press it into a disc and slip it into PlayStation Magazine or whatever. And so the early release had another actor in there. That's not me. Back then, I worked at a recording studio in Los Gatos, California, which is a neighbor of San Jose. And we were the studio that recorded the first Sly game. So I was a production coordinator, but also an actor. I'd already been in several other games, including the Tales of Destiny series, Jet Set Radio, Ace Combat. And so I auditioned along with everybody else for the role. And a game like Sly Cooper takes many iterations of auditions and conversations and such. So that's why there was a partially different cast for the original game. And then it came down to time for them to make their final selects on who was going to play Sly. And the story, as I understand it, was there was a group of people that really liked, we'll call them Actor A, and then half of the team hated Actor A but loved Actor B. And then that first half hated that actor. So they couldn't agree on their first choice, but everybody's second choice was me. I was the compromise for the team. So, and that's how these things are often done, is that everybody can come to a conclusion together. So that's how I got the role.
So the way that you landed this gig, is it similar to the process that happens today, or is it completely different?
Completely different. Anybody that was going to audition for it needed to drive to the building, step into the booth, receive direction from us, be recorded, and then we needed to make the choice whether or not to send their audition to somebody. There's a similar process that happens now, but it's all done remotely. So if you're auditioning for projects now, most of the time, at least for the initial call, you're doing it at home on your own recording gear. And then even through that, the recording sessions are largely done remotely. You do go into buildings to record things, but you can also do it with the director in one part of the country and the engineer in another, and so on and so forth. So it's wildly different. The way that I was fortunate enough to get into the recording industry, I don't think is a viable way in anymore. Now there are websites that like voices.com and stuff, where you can jump in and start auditioning and land gigs. That didn't exist when I first started doing it. YouTube had a limit of the amount of the file size. I think it was like 4 megs or something.
Jeez, can you imagine trying to work that today?
Yeah. They're like, we can't even, you just be a talking face back then.
I'm sure that you saw some like the early iterations of Sly before you started to voice. Did you expect that this game, Sly Cooper, Thievius Raccoonus, would leave such a lasting impact on gamers or people alike with like the fans of it now? Did you think it would leave this much of an impact?
No, and no way. I knew it was a big game. I knew that it was a big deal because I'd been in other projects and I could see the amount of time and attention. Immediately they wanted to do a sequel and another sequel. That's a big deal. And so it was clearly a franchise. And, at the time I was working at the studio and I would run into Charles Martinet all the time. And so I would feel like, oh, I've got the PlayStation mascot and the Nintendo mascot. So I knew it was a big game, but your question of like, did I understand what that would mean to people? Never crossed my mind. At the time, I was working for Nickelodeon, traveling around the country, doing live events with Nick. And so we'd set up camp in some mall or in some school or somewhere. And we'd do a Nickelodeon show and, slime kids and their dads. There's a chance that if you were in grade school in the mid-2000s and remember some wacky show coming to your neighborhood in South Dakota, that could have been me pouring slime on someone's head. And so I knew that the game meant something to kids, but it never occurred to me that the kids would grow up and it would mean something to them today, that it would still stick with them. And so that's really cool. I'm honored regularly. The number of times that people tell me that I'm the voice of their childhood, I still haven't learned how to properly integrate that into my mind. I grew up in the 80s, and so I grew up with like Ninja Turtles and DuckTales. And, if I met Alan Young, who was the voice of Scrooge McDuck, I would probably get really nervous and really shocked. And so I think I can understand that. And so it's incredibly honoring that someone would put that kind of time and intention into playing Sly that I had with loving stuff like DuckTales. So
the thing is, though, is that Sly Cooper was just not a one-man crew, right? He had a team with him, right? Do you still keep in contact with any of the original voice actors from the games? And also, to kind of add on a little bit, what was it like riffing or working with them, if that is applicable?
Yeah. So these days, I work with Streamily, and you can sign up and order a print that I've signed at streamily.com/TheKevinMiller. And on 2 separate occasions last year, Chris Murphy, who's the voice of Murray, drove down from Central California and hung out right here. And we signed a bunch of stuff for people. So he's fantastic. He's a fellow improviser, has an amazing story of what he does now these days of like blessing at-risk youth with theater classes to help them kind of change their own stories by learning the power of narrative. Like it's a beautiful thing that he's doing, and an honor to continue to be his friend. We've known each other before we were in the Sly cast together. We were buddies that would bump into each other at the studio. So I love hanging out with him. And Matt, who's the voice of Bentley, he will take my emails and such. He lived in LA for a short period of time. He's a little more shy. He is a turtle, so
fitting.
He's not as interested in hanging out and signing autographs and such, but yeah, they're great guys, and it's quite a brotherhood of sorts to be part of the Sly gang together.
Gameplay can be different from development experience. I mean, I'm sure you see things on the back end, and then you see the final result. Which Sly Cooper is your favorite to play, and which Sly do you have the most fun recording and developing for?
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, because it's difficult to choose one as my favorite game, because it's sort of like picking your kids,
right?
They all have a very important role. Like, I love doing the first game. That was the first game. Like, how incredible was that to be part of that and to be cast in it? The second game is super fun. I think it's groundbreaking technology, groundbreaking game. Nothing like it had been done before. Third game was so much fun to come back together, and then to do the fourth and come back again. So yeah, there's great things about all of them. That's difficult to pick, but your question of like which one's the most fun to record, I would say that probably Sly 3, and I don't know if I knew that answer until you asked it. For Sly 2 and 3, they flew me up to Seattle to be near Sucker Punch. They're in Bellevue, and so we were in Seattle. And they realized that it was cheaper and more efficient for them to fly the cast up and live in Seattle than it was for them to fly the team down to San Jose. Being a young guy in his 20s, I had no problem living in a hotel for a week in Seattle and getting to play actor. And so when we recorded the third game, it was like coming back. It was done it the year before. I knew kind of the routine. I would pop into the booth, record the lines, and then go back into the break room and play Sly 2. and then go back in, that was it, to like stay in character. And I'm like, oh yeah, I remember recording this line in this room or in this building last year, and now it's on this game. So that was good times. That was a lot of fun.
So you mentioned about Sly Cooper 4, Thieves in Time. There are some polarizing takes and thoughts about that game in the community, sure, right? Yeah, there's some people that say it's the best. Some people think otherwise. What are your thoughts on the such polarizing takes on this game?
Yeah, I mean, growing up in the era of Star Wars as I did, I'm not unfamiliar with this. We waited, 13 years for Phantom Menace to come around, and that's a polarizing film for sure. And, maybe nowadays it's not as polarizing as the latest trilogy or where Star Wars is, but at the time, it was definitely like, wait, what just happened? So I get it, I understand that we had expectations that the franchise was going to go this way, and then a different team kind of took it in a direction maybe we weren't expecting or didn't meet our expectations. But I think it's just par for the course. At that point, it had been, 10 years, 8 years since we had a game? That's a long time to go. And that's a long time to build expectations of what we think should be in that game. So
Yeah.
I think no matter what, it was always going to let us down. And I think that's a shame because it overshadows the good things that are in the game, which is why, as you said, it's polarizing. I mean, that game is gorgeous. The effects and the depth of it are so cool. I remember seeing Sly for the first time in HD and going, oh, this is what I imagined Sly was like. Like, had you asked, I thought it looked like that, but it didn't. It looked like it does in Sly 4. And, the animation by Ghostbot is phenomenal. So I'm a big fan. And I think over time, when enough time passes, people will look back and be like, you know what? I was hard on that game. I think it's
Yeah.
a good game. It's a good game.
Yeah, I do think, and I've said so in the past publicly, that I think that there are some sections in that game that's the best the series has ever felt. There are like some sections in that game, to me, it was like, this is the best Sly game, right? And I do think that there are quite a bit of negativity towards it overall, but I do agree with your sentiment that as time is going on, I am starting to see more people start to be like, hey, it's not so bad. It's kind of like, it's like the Star Wars comparison you made, right?
Yeah. Like, actually, this is fun. I get to be Sly.
Right, exactly.
And they have a lot of play sets in there, or a lot of mechanics, like being able to ancestors and roll around with guns, and they have bullet time. And there's a ton. It's a good game. You should play it.
I have. It's great. Did it feel different working with Sanzaru versus Sucker Punch? And were there any notable differences or stories, anything that you can share about that experience?
They are different teams, but both share a real strong passion for good games and for good game making. Very talented people, both of them, and an honor to work with both teams. When we finished the third Sly game, I remember Nate Fox being pretty clear of like, we're done. I think he even told us this in the recording, like, this is the last game we're making, but we really hope that the game continues on, that a new studio picks it up and the franchise just lives on forever, and that people make the games again and again and again. And so he got that wish when Sanzaru took over and made their game. And Matt Kramer and that team, their ability to like hone in on what made Sly special, down to stuff like the tail, like it's the
tail
same
flicks.
Yeah, the tail flick, it's the same algorithm that makes all that stuff happen. They really had a real keen eye for it. And Sanzaru never treated me anything better than a king. Like, they were just so kind and so appreciative, and it was always an honor to work with them. And the difference being for that game, unlike a recording for Slides 2 and 3, they recorded walking distance from my house here in LA. Like, literally. Next door to where we recorded the fourth Sly game. So that was really nice. And the other thing that was interesting about recording for Sly 4 is that unlike the other games, and I think what is a common way to develop, instead of recording all of the game in like a week and then several months later doing some pickups, we literally recorded them like episodes in a TV show. So every month or so, we'd get together and do an episode, and then do pickups from the previous month's episodes. So in that way, it was really fun because it made the project last longer. So we really were more of a crew rather than a bunch of people kind of coming together for like a summer camp for a week. We would see each other and be like, how are things? What's going on? How's the project? How's it developing? So that was really fun.
Now, at one point, Sanzaru had said and mentioned, like I said, this was over the past, I think 1 or 2 years, Sanzaru had mentioned that there was some sort of DLC of sorts for Sly Cooper Thieves in Time. They said they had drawn it out on paper and it was like in basically a cupboard and ready to go. Did you know any details about what it was about or what would have happened, or is that still a mystery for you?
It's largely a mystery. I think I've over time have merged whatever I knew from conversations with what I've gleaned from the internet. But as far as I understand, there was always a plan to have an Egypt level. It became a big game. Like, it's a large game already. So they felt the best way to save time and space was to make that a DLC. They're like, okay, we'll do that after the game is done. And then it just didn't happen for all the reasons that things don't happen in the entertainment industry. So as far as I understand, like, not only is it in a drawer ready to go, like, it was the thing. Like, they knew they were going to do it in the same way that, modern games have expansions like Burning Shores for the Horizon Zero Dawn series. So, like, they know that there's another level. And you can see it in the marketing because the little skunk guys are pretty prevalent, and there's an image of them like in Cairo, right? Like, that was early promo things. So it was always the idea. And then you get there, you're like, wait,
Where'd it go?
where'd the skunk guys in Egypt go? What happened?
Kind of going on the same, thought line, was there ever talks of a Sly Cooper 5? Like you said that you would come week to week and, it was kind of like a TV show. When you were coming to the end, was there any conversations about there being just a direct sequel? And if so, can you share anything about it?
Yeah, as a voice actor, they don't tend to share a lot. And so, for example, I remember asking Glenn Egan, the head of Sunzo, something about crossplay, and he was very coy about it and made it sound like it wasn't possible. And literally the next week they announced that crossplay was a and I was like, wow.
That was fast.
Yeah, he plays, exactly. Like, the conversation changed his mind, or he plays his cards really close to the vest. And the crossplay was such a great part of Sly 4, being able to pick it up on the Vita and hop between the two.
Yeah.
That was like a predecessor to the Switch or something. I know from the internet that there was a Vita game in the works, and I've seen that. But other than that, like, I think they always had intentions. I knew that there was this Egypt level, and I knew there was definitely an expectation to make a Sly 5 or 6 and beyond. And it just didn't happen. Again, for all the reasons that things happen in the entertainment industry. And it's a bummer, because I want to keep the story. We got a hashtag Free Sly from Egypt.
It seems like almost every 6 or so months, sometimes it's only a few months, sometimes it's 9, but averaging about every 6 months, people, including myself, because, we have friends on the inside, we seem to hear a rumor that there's a Sly Cooper in development, and then it's expected at this show, and then it's not, and then it's canceled, but then it's not, and it's all over the place. What are your thoughts about this constant reoccurring rumor? Why do you think this is happening?
I think it's a good question, and the reason why we are in touch is because you had that really smart video about the release of the Sly movie back in the day, and your expertise in film. You should go watch that video if you haven't already. It's really good. And I think there's two things at work. One is the obvious one, that people really want it.
Yes.
And so they convince themselves of everything, that there is a Sly 5 being hinted at, and then that accidentally gets communicated, and then someone picks it up as gospel truth that it's coming. And because and then nothing ever comes of it, so then we just repeat the cycle every 6 months. I greatly appreciate the interview that Nate Fox gave, it was a couple years ago now, where he unequivocally said, no one is developing a game, we're not developing a game, nothing has happened. And that was nice, because I do end up representing the franchise on a pretty regular basis, because I make myself pretty accessible to the greater Sly community. And I don't have a PR department, and I don't know. And it breaks my heart every time I'm like, I don't know if there's a Sly. You can ask me 1,000 different ways. I'm not being cute. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's more. So it was nice to know that there isn't something being made in the works and will be sprung on us all at some moment. I think the other reason why we get the fresh rumors on a regular basis is because I do think that people think about it. I do, we see things like the PlayStation Plus free icon or avatar picture of Sly, and the 20th anniversary, Sly made an appearance in that video. I have no doubt that there are executives and there are people within the PlayStation decision-making group that are actually going, well, maybe this is a property we should try. Maybe we should find a studio. Maybe we should do this with it. And I have no doubt that there are rumblings out there of things that make it look like there's movement behind the windows. The lights are on, but no one's home. Like, there is something happening around, but it just never makes it to that green light space. So that, coupled with a hungry community for more, I think just activates these rumors, and we get sent on this carousel. So after, a decade of this, I've just resolved myself to, until I get a phone call, I don't believe anything. Because I've had people tell me point blank, yes, Max and HBO are making a Sly game. I know it to be true. I'm like, great. Can I talk to your source? 1 minute, I'll get right back to you. And then
poof.
Oh, still.
Like I've said, I've spoken to people that I know, like, for a fact, I've spoken to that, 3 different sources that have been like 100% correct, 100%, like 3 different people, 100% correct. All 3 had different answers.
Yeah.
Like, it's like all 3. And I was just like, how are you dead set on everything, but so wrong about Sly Cooper? Like,
I think there's something about Sly, and maybe that's just him. He's sneaky. Maybe there is a TV show and we don't even know.
Just on someone's hard drive somewhere, just waiting.
Just waiting to be released. We don't know.
Now, the next two questions are completely hypothetical. So we're going to put that out there for the community and for yourself. Completely hypothetical. We're entering the zone of unknown, so not concrete. If tomorrow you got a phone call, like you just said, to voice the next Sly Cooper title, what would you want it to be? Would you want it to be a remake, a reboot, or continue where Sly 4 left off, or something in between?
Yeah, that's good. I appreciate you adding the caveat that this is hypothetical, because what I'm sharing is as part fan and part actor, not representing like, maybe there's something coming. That's not what we're doing.
No, it's hypothetical in the aether for fun.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, I think that I could understand from a business side wanting to reboot it or restart the franchise. But for me, what I would want to do is free Sly from Egypt. If there is a Sly level out there where he's stuck in Egypt somewhere in the past, we need to get him out of there and continue the adventures from there. A few years ago, I had put on social media it just sort of riffing with someone else of a pitch for what could happen next. And I think that in the Sly level, because the time machine is busted, they can't collect Sly. So Sly, working with Sly in common, figures out a magic potion of sorts and gets mummified and sleeps in a sarcophagus for 3,000 years, 4,000 years, until Bentley and Murray in modern times have to steal him out of a museum, but he's not quite ready, and so they have to go around the town with Mummy Sly, stealing the canonic jars of all of his organs to reflect Sly's body and get him. That's what I think the next game should be. So you get like Mummy stealth Sly, and you have to like get back Sly's eyes and that kind of thing. So
that's interesting. I had just for fun here, side note, I had an interesting thought. In theory, it'd be interesting if Sly was actually Sly Tutankhamun.
Oh, yeah. Get back there. There's no Sly. Yeah, that's good.
And he starts the Thievius Raccoonus because so it's kind of like this whole time is a circle. So it's kind of like similar
little
thought.
Terminator 2 kind of vibe to it. Sly Cooper has always been my favorite ancestor since the moment I saw him. I was like, that guy is cool.
All right, Kevin, before we wrap up, what have you been up to lately, and where can people find you on the interwebs?
So I just built up my website at thekevinmiller.com. I've had the URL forever. I'm really proud of how it looks right now. It's all bento boxy. So you can head over there, and if you're looking for an autograph or a cameo, I have links to all that stuff there. I also teach classes, so there's a little section about workshops if you're interested in the skills of a voiceover actor. I've helped coach people on cold reads as well as video game reads, finding characters for auditions. If you just want to try it out, or if you're an actor looking to push themselves to the next level, I've helped people do all that stuff. And then I was recently in a game called Paper Clay. It's available on Steam. It's an amazing little indie game by Kevin Anderson, and it is super fun. I get to play Nox, the villain, so I went from a raccoon hero to a thieving fox that is not noble. He's very dastardly. Super fun character to play, and it's a great game. It's definitely a throwback to the collectathons of the PS2 era, where you play as Chick and you go around this paper cardboard universe collecting eggs in this really great platformer experience. I've done it on my stream a few times. Check it out. If you have Steam, it's a bargain buy for sure, and hours of fun. And I'm in it, so that's really fun. So check that out.
I can vouch for Paper Clay as well. I've played through it. It is a lot of fun. It is a great, fun little game. And I knew you were in there, but I wasn't sure who you was. And then as soon as I saw the Fox show, I was like, that's Kevin Miller. As soon as before the Fox barely even opened his mouth, like, that's Kevin Miller. I know it is.
That's okay.
Well, Kevin, I appreciate you coming on to the channel. Thank you so much. We really do appreciate it. And thank you for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.